Good afternoon, my name is Lauren Martens, and today I will be talking about students with learning disabilities in orchestra. So some of the topics that I'm going to cover today are what is a learning disability? What is ADHD? What are some issues that might occur in an orchestra classroom? How will participating in orchestra benefit these students? What are some adaptations that can be made for these students? And how do we deal with parents with negative attitudes about inclusion? So first and foremost, what are learning disabilities? What is ADHD? This is a very broad term, and the definition is conditions that are characterized by deficiencies in one or more of the basic psychological processes used in understanding or using language. Now, like I said, this is a very broad term. There's kind of more that goes into that now. The term other learning disabilities was coined by Samuel Kirk, which that says that on your handout. And then students with ADHD usually have trouble paying attention and sometimes have behavior problems. Okay. So some issues that we might have with students with learning disabilities in our classroom is that they may have trouble memorizing things, they may have other behavioral problems, they may have trouble reading music, and they may get discouraged. So what are some assumptions that people make about students with learning disabilities? Some people think that they have mental retardation or they're lazy, but that is not the case. They just learn differently. Okay, so here are more issues that may occur in an orchestral setting. First and foremost is lack of focus. I have experience with students with ADHD, and they seem to have trouble focusing, especially when they come into the classroom in the beginning. Another big one is frustration. Some students with learning disabilities may get frustrated because they're not going as quickly as their peers. Another one is difficulty with memory. They might forget to bring their instrument, or they might forget to practice, or they might forget that there's a playing test. And difficulty with organization. There's always lost music, or they're forgetting their bow, and they are forgetting their music on stage for a performance, and just stuff like that. And then lastly is behavior. With all these issues, the students could get into kind of a mood and act out in class. Now here's some things that will be beneficial for these students in an orchestral setting. Social aspects is a big one. So these students, they feel like an outcast in school and general education classes, but when they come to orchestra, it's something that everybody's doing, everybody's at different levels, so they can really make those connections with their peers. Another one is encouragement. Same with general education. There might be things that these students are struggling with in math or reading, but in orchestra, it's just a very positive environment. Everybody's always encouraging someone else to do better. And then passion. Music is something that can really bring out passion in an individual, especially students with learning disabilities, because it's a way that they can really express themselves. And then also relaxation. We all know that music kind of has a calming effect on all of us. And then here's an article on BBC about how music can help students with ADHD focus. Here are some adaptations that teachers can make in their classroom. So a big one for me, for ADHD students, is the standing versus sitting. A lot of students, they get squirrely, and really all they need to do is just stand up. They just need to stand up and play. Sitting for 45 minutes to an hour can just get really frustrating for some of these students. Another one is modeling. Not always will a student understand what you're telling them. So something that I do a lot is show what I'm doing. So I will show the student how I'm placing my fingers and how I'm placing my bow hand, and then I'll sometimes mold, their hands to do the same thing. Another one is high interest activities. So something that involves movement, or something that's like got pop culture in it and stuff like that. One-on-one instruction. This is a big one because someone might not get something in the actual classroom, but if you take the time and sit down with the student outside of the class, they'll be like, oh, light bulb moment, and get it. So that's a big one. Playing audio clips of pieces of music just to give the students an idea of what things sound like. Stretching. Now this is a big one. Not only to kind of regain focus, but also to make sure that everyone's joints aren't locked up. Because if you play for a long time without stretching, you are more prone to get injuries. What are some other adaptations that you might make? It says that on your handout, so go ahead and take a second and maybe talk with a person around you to see what other adaptations you might make. And lastly, parents with negative attitudes. Some parents will have issues with an inclusive classroom. Some of them will have issues with students with learning disabilities and ADHD performing in ensembles. They'll also have issues with these children, maybe what they think is slowing down the orchestra. And so something that I would do for that is to name the benefits of having an inclusive classroom. A big one is leadership roles. So these parents that have negative attitudes, you can tell them that your children are getting opportunities to be leaders and to help their peers, and not just the students with learning disabilities, but everybody. Another one is diversity. Everyone's different. No, not one person is the same, and not all children learn the same. So this is a big one, to really show the student that there are many different ways to learn and that not everybody learns at the same pace. And also, it's a positive learning environment. Orchestra, like I said before, with the social aspects, everybody's constantly encouraging one another. And so this is a big one. No one is supposed to bring anyone else down. And that's all I have. Thank you for listening to my discussion about students with learning disabilities.